it doesn't tax the old people, but it taxes the rest of the people more. Right?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, no.
It brings in a lot more.
Oh, where did I put it?
Yeah,
It has to tax the rest of them more because it brings in more income to the school.
8.
Just
a higher-
More incomes are being taxed than property.
Oh, gotcha. So it's not necessarily higher for the
No.
taxpayers.
Yeah, it's $500 for every. Yeah, you want to try.
Right.
Mhm. Green at the bottom here is moving. Like you could see it. As long as this is moving and it's before it used to be 2 dots. And now we're running up to 3. So it'll be a little bit louder anyways.
They might take the transfer away.
I think that was Linda's idea.
Yes.
Tell people to
Yeah.
take this away.
That's how you know the audio's
So
running the
I
way
think
it should.
any of you could vote no, and you're not in favor of running another.
I was majorly in favor of money before we did this, but now that we did it, I'm like, okay, we pulled the Band-Aid off. Like, let's just be done with this.
Because it'll be another year of
It'll be us fighting for 6 more months, and then we can't exactly say that a lot tonight. But I think
which is
Yeah. Printed the wrong one.
hey there.
we were just saying that. I was confused because
Okay, I'll just, you start it and then I'll kind of like take over.
I can talk about us for 6 months.
I'll say we're doing the second report for next year.
Hey, that was pretty good. About,
Oh, well,
I
got to talk to our superintendent. No, I didn't.
Okay, I haven't
I can't see him saying,
sent you.
I can't see him
Kept
saying
saying,
no.
I'll get it out. That was like an
They said you were gonna, I mean, I understand your
I
reasoning.
hope my supervisor heard me, but it's not like that. Teach it.
Or we could just say we're gonna wait and see.
My
The
only
other thing why you don't.
I don't know. I think people are mad at us for loving on them and one question. They all have to take.
But I think
You don't
that
have to do that.
we have to just educate them more. And people are starting to pay attention a little bit to school
We
finance.
have to go early.
So I don't know that that'll make them hike the levy.
I know what you're saying.
Right.
I'm going to Columbus. I'm
It's
taking-
half the amount of hate mail we've gotten, and it'll continue to have.
If we
Until
just
we start
move on
running more
from this.
levies, then it'll start up again.
I just think people are mad that we did
But I'll go,
this. and
I'll write it all
We're
out.
gonna stay mad no longer. Now they're
I'm
gonna.
pretty sure that our lobbyists got it kept out of the budget bill, so.
Yeah, from what I read today, I didn't
Yes,
see.
that's good.
Yeah, our lobbyists got to work right away, and I sent them a narrative on why we were doing it. They were like, we're gonna get this block, and they are Republicans working right now.
Right, I know.
They blocked
It's
it.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess when you pay them $5,000 a month.
That's true. I guess that works, huh?
I don't think it will. I think
Yeah.
if we- Because I've had people come up to me and say, I understand why you do that. I've had like 3 people come
So they want to be a
up and one
cheerleader.
no.
I do.
Because I think
I saw that. Crazy.
if we don't do the levy, I still think we need to get out there and campaign. Because I think we need to educate people around.
Yeah, we still need to share with them why.
People finance.
If we're not,
Of course.
if we're not,
I put these out on the stand this morning, or this evening, I should say, 3-2, on the stand outside, and then I was gonna make a little spiel.
I think that's why I think we could pass it. And it would be less, if we did anything like, it would be less for like the seniors and those guys.
But I guess why we don't care if it passes at this point. I mean, why are we gonna go through all of this stuff?
I think we give people, I mean, I think,
We didn't really
I know,
give them
but I
much.
think we give people,
Oh,
because they think.
The option
nobody-
of property or income.
Right, and
Thank
also, and the other thing I think,
Thanks so much.
like, we didn't have. And
Well, we have to.
I mean, if it failed, then I would be biting my head, because then they would say, see, I think if we get all the seniors out voting, income tax fund, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I get that.
let me tell you guys this.
Hey, John.
I
The
tried,
prepared for success indicator.
I went to the Burton
On that
Planning
report card, which
Commission
John
meeting.
just said, you know.
That person was there before I got there.
YouTube is live.
He started yelling at Ruth. Let's start this meeting.
Miller.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ruth, Spanish.
Yeah.
There we go. YouTube is live.
And he was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And,
partners. I'm gonna like, I couldn't get that done, but Hannah really liked that. I'm gonna do an event and set it up. I'm gonna get real partners. Every time. I'm gonna stand with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever. How are you? Hi.
I can
Hello,
just,
how are you?
hey there, how are you?
Nice to
I can
see
just
you.
say,
Too early to tell. Yeah.
or I can turn it over to you, and if you're gonna stay here, I'll turn it over to you, and you can pop up.
Sure, absolutely. I'll move this. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Betty Elizabeth. I'm presenting on high school pathways and financial.
So I saw Charlotte went to a bell schedule.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it's because they're trying to get back their, so you know they lost those two.
Yeah, CBI.
Yeah, so they're trying to figure out, they're also gonna be reading for novel programming. I just talked to West G, so Willoughby Eastern and West G were at that Ontario conference.
What were they?
So two, the middle school principals, and then this other woman who I had like a little bit of interaction with, and she was doing good. And she's more like testing and stuff, but she was good when she got there. So Jim, we were all talking about like maybe we're doing this OCT grant coming. There's like wind of it, but we don't really know. But then they were talking about doing the equity for each. And I was like, I already have to continue that for other projects. We can't change that money out. But I had an idea. Auburn said they give us 25,000 annually for 4 years. So use the first pot for next potential. We'll make money off of that annually. And Buckeye might be willing to enter into an agreement for us to pay to roll that out. And it was so fun. I did the program.
Was it
I
good?
was actually on the computer doing it,
Yeah.
and I learned how to program. I built a helicopter and I programmed it.
So that
It
was,
was cool.
that was the middle school
It was-
one that you
yeah,
were seeing?
it was amazing.
Oh, that's right.
It was
Like, it's
so
like the,
fun.
that had the general one that went to the different
Yeah.
career fields.
So I did this engineering. Our team did like an engineering kit, but I thought it would be cool. Kim would love it because all the stuff she's doing, like in real like, applications. I was so it was like fun, engaging, it's user friendly. There's slides, handouts, everything. Like she would just like love it. So if we can get, I have an idea. If Buckeye would be willing to work with us, Pam over time, and we could do like roll out slow. But I need to get a little bit more funding for it. But I think it's like I think it was so cool. It was so fun.
How
I had
long are
fun.
each of those? They said like you can do one per quarter or.
Like you could do like a sixth grade group with like the main and then two. Then the next year would be seventh
But
grade.
you could do one per quarter, right? Or one of those?
Yeah, you could one per quarter because it's 40 to 50 lessons in each. But you have to start with the foundational.
Right.
So I think we should run it over like 6 months. Even if it's run over 6, it'd be fun for the kids. I don't know. I like to teach them.
think one of the questions they only asked me about DC and DM. I probably had to ask it 3 times before they answered it. Hi, Joe. I'm fine. It's my answer. I don't care. I can go talk to people and then those answer.
But I was like.
Kenny Pickett for the Browns.
Are you kidding me?
I don't want to do that.
I don't think we
I wanna
can
do-
because we're DM.
No, he was our quarterback last year.
Wait.
He was
Well, you just gave Miles Garrett $40 million a year for the next.
And he's going, cha-ching.
He does now.
Hey, look at it. Remember the Dorian Thompson. Perfect.
You can do a little review. That'd be the course.
Kenny Pickett's no better. Justin Fields signs with the Jets.
Sorry. I'd like to bring the meeting to order. If you would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman,
Here.
Mr. Manfredi,
Here.
Mrs. Miller. Here. Mrs. Stone,
Here.
Mr. Wadsworth.
Here.
I need a first and a second for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Linda, did I get it right?
Yep.
All right. Any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman,
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller. Yes. Mrs. Stone
Yes.
and Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make the motion for approval of the minutes. I need a second, please.
I'll second.
Jody. I got that right, too. Any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mr. Berman.
Yes.
Okay. John, student staff presentation.
Okay, for today's presentation, we have Mr. John Franks and Dr. Vanessa Carwin to present about the high school program of studies.
Mr. President, Board of Education, thank you for having us today. Dr. Carwin and myself are here to present the Berkshire High School Program of Studies for next year, 2025-26 school year. Just recently, right here in the auditorium, last Thursday, 6th, we met with all students in grades 9 through 11. The school council will soon be meeting with 8th graders, who will be our future freshmen, to go over the same program of studies as well as the course selection process. The high school years, as we all know, are significant ones, and we always encourage our students and our families to take advantage of the many multiple educational opportunities that Berkshire High School does provide for our students. Through Dr. Stoddard as well as the Board of Education, we have multiple pathways for all different types of students, depending on what career pathway and passion that they ultimately have. So tonight, I just want to highlight a few of those. You do have access through that link right there, as well as I believe it's on the board agenda tonight, to the program of studies that is multifaceted in all the information, comprehensive information that it has. The first thing that I want to do is highlight on one of the many opportunities that students have, go ahead, Dr. Stoddard, for taking classes that ultimately depend in college credit. So we have a litany of advanced placement courses as well as college credit plus courses that we offer our students here at the high school. So you've heard that term college credit before, so we have a lot of teachers who have dedicated themselves to further studies in order to be able to bring college credit plus classes back onto the campus. So on the right-hand side there, those are all courses that we teach college credit plus within the building. For a variety of reasons, this is where conversations between counselors, parents, and students occur. We decide what the best pathway is for that student, so they can either take a combination of college credit plus courses and or some advanced placement courses. Those advanced placement courses on the left-hand side are also courses that we all offer right here in the building. Now, some students do go outside the building for college credit plus courses, which is, again, that's a great opportunity for them to connect their education with their passion. An example of that would be our medical assisting program, where they would leave our campus and go down to the Kent State University Jaga branch. But everything you see up there are things that we offer right inside these walls where we're sitting right now. As of this year, 2024-25, these courses up here account for about 186 credits. So 186 kids in seats with these courses right here. So that's a significant amount of our student population that yourselves have committed to facilitating for our students as they move from Berkshire High School eventually upon graduation onto the next stage of their life with whatever preparatory institution that they engage in. Moving on to the next slide here, one of the things that we've really been pushing out to students in regards to another option are two different workforce development pathways. One of them you are very familiar with, the agribusiness and production systems pathway that we refer to as agricultural education. So these workforce development programs allow students to identify paths to future success and provide students opportunities to demonstrate the knowledge and skills necessary for high school and beyond. Just last month, Mr. Ard was here as part of our agricultural education program. He was talking about course number 1 that we are offering this year, the agricultural food and natural resources. The students that were here, we have 3 classes of agricultural food and natural resources. The students that were here were talking about some of the things they've been doing this year within the classroom. We're adding course number 2 next year to that Ag Ed pathway, and that is the science and technology of food. Students that want to continue on with that 3rd and 4th year, we'll be offering a new one in 2026 and 27, as well as 2027 and 28. When I turn the microphone over here to Dr. Carwan soon, she's going to explain to you what it means for a student that completes those 4 courses within the agribusiness and production systems pathway and the opportunities that it affords them for success upon graduation. A second pathway that we are moving forward to, again, with the purchase of the property across from Preston Chevrolet, the Berkshire Workforce Development Campus, we'll be offering a mechanical tech pathway. We envision this as a junior year, senior year program, very similar to what Auburn Career Center does, but our students will be just 5 minutes away and will be able to jump back to the BHS campus as needed in order to fulfill their academic classes. So at this point, I am going to turn over to Dr. Carwan, who's been integral in connecting us with outside resources to make everything that we see up here reality for our students as they're able to take advantage of these programs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Franks, Superintendent Stoddard and Board of Education. I just wanted to expand and share a little bit more about the agribusiness and production pathway. We were very selective about these 4 courses, specifically because they fulfill the requirement for the Ohio Agribusiness Association credential, which upon graduation, students, if as they pass their web exams, then they will be able to apply for a supervised agricultural experience along with their teacher, which demonstrates that they have capability to work in agribusiness and production in the field. And they will actually obtain that credential. That will be an industry recognized credential of 12 points, which will also fulfill a graduation requirement. So we are very selective in those courses. 2 of the courses on the list, course 3, Environmental Science for Agriculture and Natural Resources, and course 4, Business Management for Agriculture and Environmental Systems, are also CTAG credit courses, which do receive college credit. So we will be able to work with a variety of institutions that will grant credit. Typically, for example, an Ohio State University that has a strong agricultural education program will actually grant them that specific credit for that course, how other higher ed institutions will grant elective credits. So that will be also substantial and beneficial for the students. So we were very selective in those courses as well. The other piece I want to extend upon with our pathway on the agribusiness and production is that we are going to be incorporating some SACA certifications. And SACA stands for Smart Automation Certification Alliance. We were one of 10 schools who received the Battelle Advanced Manufacturing Grant in the state of Ohio. We were just funded. There will soon be a press release. As part of that, will be receiving $174,000 to implement the equipment and the training necessary for those credentials. Why are those so important? Is that advanced manufacturing is the cross sector between agribusiness and production, as well as automation and automotive. So our grant application kind of connected that. And so just so you kind of understand, we have Rockwell Automation, Swagelock, and Amazon who are already SACA members, and Great Lakes Cheese is moving to SACA membership, as well as some of our other local businesses. This is a benefit as students then could potentially work in agribusiness precision careers, a variety of careers in our backyard, for example, agricultural equipment operators, agricultural technicians, and first line supervisors, for example, of landscaping and groundscaping. So those are just some examples that just opens up another avenue, as well as Great Lakes Cheese is moving to SACA membership. So that's a benefit to help with employability for that wonderful business who has been supporting us. I just want to talk a little bit too about the mechanical tech. We'll also be incorporating those SACA credentials there. There's electronics, pneumatics, and hydraulics. That's why we kind of have chosen those names for the courses. And then it allows for some flexibility. So students can choose really in that mechanical tech pathway which avenue they'd like to pursue. Do they want to pursue an ACE certification with Ford, which would place them in a Ford position through direct, or would they want to go to Great Lakes Cheese for a pre-apprenticeship program? We're also in talks and communications with Ohio Machinery Company, which is CAT and Peterbilt, as well as with ODOT themselves about potential careers that use CAT and Peterbilt, so that we can create an avenue direct for example, the Middlefield ODOT location. So we are working with our partners to kind of expand these and getting feedback. We also currently have a certified production technician elective course. We are going to offer that course, but it'll be with SACA basic and advanced credentials so that it matches the workforce development in our backyard. That will be a required elective for both of those pathways, giving our students 6 points towards that 12 points of that SACA credential. So it just opens up more avenues for our students for employability. Today I was in Ontario visiting their middle school and high school programs to learn more about their implementation of SACA credentials, and they are placing students out in the field at $37 per hour upon graduation. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Dr. Carwan. I want to emphasize what the big takeaway from Dr. Carwan there was. These are not just words on a piece of paper. There's been a lot of homework, a lot of meeting with community partners to figure out what employability skills they are looking for in our students so that they have those skills when they graduate from Berkshire High School for immediate employability and fantastic jobs in the region right here surrounding us in Geauga County. There's a lot more within that program of studies, but those are the two different highlights that I wanted to communicate with the board today. And if you have any questions, feel free.
How many students do we have in the ag business and production program currently?
So I can speak from the high school perspective. So we have 3 sections right now, because then Mr. Ard also teaches some middle school for Miss Randall's as well. So right now we have approximately, I think off the top of my head, about low 60s within just the high school.
And then how many do we have in the mechanical tech?
So the precursor to the mechanical tech, because this is a complete new
Yeah.
2-year program that we are starting for the junior senior year. You'll see that the senior year won't start till 26, 27 because we don't have a junior year cohort yet to move into 26, 27. But right now, the precursor to that would be our diesel classes. And right now we're sitting around the mid to high 20s within our 2 diesel sections right now, diesel 1 and diesel 2.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for John or Vanessa?
It's just super exciting. It's great to hear this
That's
kind of
great.
stuff. Good job, guys.
How far, I know you got,
You were on. You turned it off.
am I on?
Now you're on.
Okay, I am. How far are we in the education one? Because you're working on that as well.
So with our Grow Your Own Teacher, we've been working with to create an opportunity for our current paraprofessionals who are employed by us and allowing them an opportunity to advance their education to become teachers. So we actually nominated 8 applicants total, 7 paraprofessionals, and 1 student, senior student who is interested in exploring a teaching career. At this point, that we are waiting for the Grow Your Own Teacher Scholarship Committee to accept the applicants, which means that they will fund them for $7,500 a year up to 4 years, as well as then once that is completed, once we find out if they are funded, which I do believe that they will be funded as that is a $10 million initiative, then those students will be able to begin a program next August in collaboration with Bloom Board and Lake Erie College, where they can actually complete their degrees in 3 years' time in work experience here where they're already currently employed, and then obtain, it's kind of like similar to a student teaching experience where they submit artifacts and videos and codify what they're already doing in their classroom and their work. And it's graded by Lake Erie College professors, their assignments. If they have an associate's, actually, they can obtain their degree in 2 years' time, and then 3 years' time if not. What's really beneficial right now is that the teacher Pell Grants are available as well that help offset the costs. So dependent upon their own applications to FAFSA, they may potentially be fully funded and not have to pay anything. They would just owe time once they are finished to work as a teacher, and they have up to 6 years to start that, and then work for 4 years within that 6. So they have about 2 years to do that. So we're looking forward to that. I have been in direct contact with the ODHE lead, the Ohio Department of Higher Education lead on the project. I've been able to give her a lot of feedback, and there is a proposal for additional funding coming down the pipes from legislators. So we'll see if that can be something we can continue to support down the road.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point of the meeting, we'd like to have public participation. If you want to address the board, you'll come up to the microphone, address the board, state your name, and please be respectful. Okay. Public participation is closed. Beth, Treasurer's report.
Thank you. Let the record reflect the treasurer has submitted a statement to the board and to the superintendent showing the revenues, the receipts, the sources derived, the various appropriations made by the board, the expenditures and disbursements, the purposes and balances remaining in each fund, The financial statements for the period ending February 2025 has been submitted subject to audit and includes the financial summary, appropriation and revenue summary, check register recap, and bank reconciliation. I have a motion to approve the following donations. We had $1,500 to the ROCKS program from the VFW post in Chardon, $1,500 to the junior bot team from Great Lakes Cheese. We had $150 from Dr. Carwin for the alumni event, $100 from Linda Stone, $100 from Jody Miller, and $100 from Melissa Malkus, all for the alumni event. $50 to the Cafeteria Angel Fund from Kathy McGranahan, and Preston once again donated to the Thespians for $1,000.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Dan. And as always, Beth, we can't say enough for the people that support, especially our own board members, supporting the school and our staff as well. It's a vital part of what we do. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Beth.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes. Am I allowed to vote on this or should I
Yeah.
abstain? Yes. Okay, then yes.
No, take your money back.
If
Not
it's a
allowed.
donation, you can vote.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
And Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the following amendments? I am going to take off the Sources of Strength grant. We don't quite have the funding for that yet, so I'm going to take that appropriation off, please.
So moved.
Brian,
Oh, go ahead. Linda.
Okay, no. I'll second it, Linda.
any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
And Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Beth. John, superintendent's report.
Okay, I'd like to request a motion to approve the following personnel classified and certified as listed.
So moved.
Dan,
I'll second.
Jody. Any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
And Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I'd like to request a motion to approve the following volunteers as listed.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Is that Linda?
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Any discussion?
We're sure about these?
No, we're not.
I'll say it. One of the volunteers is our own Brian Wadsworth, who volunteers as the head track coach. And it is a volunteer position where it's unpaid.
And he does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Great
Thank you.
kids.
Thank good kids.
Mhm.
Great bunch of kids.
We have great kids. Any further discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And Mr. Wadsworth?
Abstain.
I'd like to request a motion to approve the following contracts as attached.
So moved.
Brian,
I'll second.
Jody. Any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Would like to request a motion to approve the following course guides for the 2025-26 school year. We have attached both the high school, which you heard a little bit about from Mr. Franks and Dr. Carwin, and we also have the middle school course selection guide.
So moved.
Linda,
I'll second.
Dan, any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
I'd like to request a motion to approve the school fees as attached. Note that aside from a few advanced placement tests that increase in cost. And I think an art fee. All the fees are all the same as they were the previous year.
So moved.
Brian,
I'll second.
Jody, any discussion?
They haven't been raised in years.
Since
Correct.
I've been here, they
Yeah.
haven't.
Any further discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
I'd like to request a motion to approve following overnight student athletic field trip. It actually happened over the weekend. It was for the state wrestling championships. Couldn't put it on the prior board meeting because they have to qualify to make it. So we are putting it on after they got back from it.
So moved.
I'll second.
Brian will second. Any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yep.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
And Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I'd like to request a motion to approve the following professional development as attached. You'll note that there's an AI conference April 4th through the 7th in San Diego, California. This district is not paying for that. I was contacted by the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation, and they recognized 10 superintendents from Northeast Ohio that they wanted to send as leaders in the area of AI. Based on some trainings that we're doing here with staff on AI. So they asked for me to attend, and it's basically a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I'm back here Monday. The second one is the case learning professional development training for Mike Ard, our ag ed teacher. It's only offered in Athens, Georgia. It's also grant funded. But it will be for Mike to complete his ag ed teaching certification.
So moved.
Second.
Dan, want to say it's great that you get the exposure and that it is funded by the Jennings grant. So I think that's awesome. Any further discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following science of reading stipend payments as listed.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second it. Oh, sorry, Dan.
Oh, go ahead, Linda.
Jody and Linda, is that it?
Yep.
Yes.
Very good. Any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are to old business and 6.1, it is the levy. So it's the time we want to have discussion and vote if we wish.
So looking at this chart, Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, the millage shift that we voted on a couple weeks ago, is that the most cost effective for the taxpayers? Am I reading this right? Or can you help me understand how that?
So the cost per $100,000 of property tax, yes, it is the most cost effective. For the seniors, of course, it would be the earned income tax that would be the most cost effective.
Okay.
Looking at this though, Beth, too, we had said a 0.5% earned income
Mhm.
Is that 1.9, but 3/4 is 1.4 to try to get the effective millage the same as the PI, which would be 1.4. That's kind of a moving target, am I correct? And what are you basing that average on, the earned income?
Yeah, so this is based on the millage is based on the 2003 property tax valuation. So we're obviously in 2005. So that millage would be a little bit less, the equivalent millage.
Okay. And as far as the amount collected,
Mhm.
is that considered an average year? I mean, because, that, as we
Yes.
know, that's kind of a moving target
Yeah,
based
yeah.
upon.
So they don't have 24 collections completed yet, so this is all based on 23. So they won't have, it takes a good 18 months to clear out a year. So they won't have 24 predictions until end of December.
John, were you saying something about doing a quarter instead of a half? Is that what you?
Well, it's between a quarter and 3.75 is closer to the same collection as the millage, the shift or a PI that we would put on the ballot. I mean, it's, you're trying to get it so it's the same and you're not increasing, but yet not decreasing. So, Beth, is that rate? Those aren't cast in stone, correct?
No, this is an informal estimate from the Department of Taxation.
And if we tried to get it as close as we could to the 2.5, we could adjust that 0.375 down in order to get it closer, correct?
Essentially, you could, yeah.
Okay. So if that's true, just in quick, that's about a 0.3,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Just looking at the numbers, I'd have to hit a calculator to be exact. Again, it's not an exact amount that we're going to collect because of the way the income is collected, but just trying to get it as close as we could, if that's the route we choose.
So to be clear, the process would be if we do the earned income, then we're removing the millage shift.
Right. So keep in mind that, once again, the income tax takes 18 months to fully collect. So essentially, you would have to overlap a year. So if this passed in November, it would be effective 1/1/26. That would be too late to shift the millage back. Plus, if you did, you'd go a whole nother year without collection. So you could unshift per se for 27.
Okay.
Would we be better off if we did that to leave the amount a little bit higher and then we would never have to? Would that make more sense?
I'm never going to say never, because you never know what the legislation is going to do.
Right, I understand.
So there would be 1 year we would have to be collecting on the millage transfer and on the levy.
Yes, I believe so.
Well, the idea is that we're only going to collect. We are not going to collect any more than we should have, though. Our goal is to try to get it as even as we can.
Mhm.
Okay. Because we can always shift back. Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
But no matter what, there'll be a year overlap, right? Even upon the shift, there'll still be a period of time, about a year, where both are collected.
You could choose not to have an overlap,
Okay.
but that's not going to help our bottom line,
Right.
because we're going to go another year without
collection.
collecting additional revenue.
Okay. Understood.
Well, let me ask this question then, Beth. On the earned income, if we went with a higher amount so that we wouldn't have to do the overlapping, we can always give back that tax, though, once we've hit the threshold. So what I'm saying is, rather than collecting that, the shift, at all. And if we went with the earned income, if we went with the higher amount, once we get to a point of where we need it to be, we can always give back some of the earned income every year. Is that true?
You mean not collect?
Not collect.
You'd have to refuse collection on probably, I don't know how you would do it on the income tax, but you could refuse collection either on inside millage or on another levy.
So you couldn't refuse on inside millage because
The
if
inside
you,
millage is gone.
well, if you did, somebody could come and take your inside millage,
Right.
pirate it. So you could potentially, so you'd have to notify the budget commission by, end of October. And you could lower your bond millage and then you could shift from general into your bond.
So essentially, we could collect less.
But we,
There's a way to do it. The
You'd have to
timing
know
will
by
be
October?
tricky. Huh?
you'd have to know by October.
Yeah, so mid-November probably we could stretch it out to, so you'd have to make that decision
Right after it passed.
October or November, yeah.
Is that of 2026, we would make that decision? Or
Mhm.
2026 or 2025.
Well, if it passed in 25, it wouldn't go in till 26.
26.
We're not going to see any payments from that until July.
Okay.
So you're kind of kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
We are, but the thing is, we made a statement, and I'll say I did, that I would be willing not to collect the millage shift if they pass this. And if we keep it at a particular rate, where it may be more on the front side, but on the back side, we just don't collect it because we've hit the threshold that we need. That's what I'm asking. You're saying we'd have to go to the budget commission. I'm sure if they heard that we were giving back money, they're not going to say no. I'm very sure of that. Okay.
So I guess what it boils down to is, after we shifted, we could give really it comes down to a choice of whether people would rather be taxed on their income or property. That's what we're debating, right? So
That's all I'm saying, Dan. I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pick another category.
Right.
But-
I think that's the only one that makes sense, right? If any.
Again, we go back a couple meetings ago, there was a young lady that brought it up. And to me, it makes sense because when we first had the earned income and we passed it in 08, it was done so it wouldn't affect our seniors, unemployment, retirees. It affects the people that are working. If you lose your job, you're not going to be paying. If you get a bonus at work, obviously that counts as toward the earned income. It's just so that it doesn't ever try to hurt our seniors, because that's never our intent.
Mhm.
And with people with property that own a lot of property, and it could be a generational property, they're taxed, and maybe they don't want to be taxed on it. This is a way they're not taxed on their property that they own. So that was the reason we did that in 2008.
Also, if we do the income tax, would it be for permanent improvements or operating?
So you could restrict it
Well,
to be for PI, or you could say operating, but you can restrict it.
And things in the PI would be like upgrading the Chromebooks and
So typically it's anything that's more than 5 years. So you can put computers into that, buses. you know, if you wanted to upgrade, you know, any technology, as long as it's over 5 years.
And maintenance, because even though the school is new, that still requires maintenance.
Mhm.
Okay.
It doesn't, if you're doing it PI, it doesn't go towards wages and benefits, which again is not something that we've ever discussed or talked about for that money to go towards. It was to go towards the PI that was the renewal that we had in place, that was taking the place of that. Okay.
So let me ask again. So,
Well, that's
so
fine.
if we decide to put this levy on and we get lots of people to help us, I must say we do have a donation already. We would do an earned income tax, probably property or permanent improvement at what earnings? Would we do it at the 0.5 or 0.3 or?
Well, I'm saying 0.5 is heavier than we would be doing with collecting the 2.5, so we can lower that to 0.375.
Okay.
And we collect it as long as we need to, and if we need to try to equal it as best we can. It's not going to be perfect because earnings go up and down, as we know, but as close as we can to what we needed for the PI.
And then we could decide when they start getting when we start getting the income tax monies in, we could decide to shift back the money and we wouldn't have to take that, correct?
We wouldn't take it all if we didn't need it.
Okay.
That's correct. It's no different than what was brought up, except that we couldn't do it, that you couldn't give back. When there's the reappraisals, you can give back money if you have extra. That's what happened with other school districts, not ours, and not every school district could do that. But, you know, we couldn't because of our the rise in inflation at this district. We were right about even, and not even. So.
And we did do that one other time when we refinanced. Didn't we?
And we lowered the millage. Yeah, that happened with the school when we went from the USDA loan to a straight bond, and we lowered the millage. The difference there is that you only collect a certain dollar amount. This is, you're going to be collecting so many dollars. It's not high or low. It's whatever you collect, and that's what you get. When it comes to the school and the building loan, you can only collect what you originally were going to borrow. That's it. That's why the millage drops over a period of time, because you have more people that pay that tax. And Beth, are we at 2.5 on that approximately?
Yes.
Yeah. So it originally was 365. When we refinanced the loan, call it what you like, it went down to about 3.3. Since that time, because of people building, businesses coming in, then that amount of collection is lowered, and it's down to 2.5. That's pretty typical. The same thing happened in Kenston after they built their school because of the properties and their values there. So,
Mr. Ranford, I just want to correct one thing. It's really not typical to refinance how you guys refinanced, because you did the USDA loan. Essentially, they were notes. If you would have sold bonds, you wouldn't have been able to refinance for 5 years down the road. So we would have been locked in to that rate, and we would never, we would not have lowered that millage as much. But because you chose to do the USDA loan and kind of blaze a new trail as far as school funding for capital projects, that allowed us to refinance early.
Well, let's say that USDA loan saved us a
Mhm.
lot of money initially
Ton of
as
money.
well. So, I mean, it was the right thing to do.
I do want to mention that in the House, there was a bill introduced that has a lot of support, bipartisan, that property taxes may not be increased for people over 65 years old and under $500,000 house evaluation, just to help not have this situation again that just happened for Ohio residents. So that would impact our collection
As well.
for millage of properties, if that does pass. Not that it's set in stone, but it has good momentum, so something to consider.
You got to check the bill because it might just shift the burden.
Yeah.
Right, that's true too.
Unfortunately, there's a bill pending that's going to potentially take away taxation to the electric utilities.
Oh, perfect.
Um,
And that'll
Seems fair.
pass.
Yeah, that
pass.
would really hurt us a lot.
Dan, if you read, there's of course a lot of other legislation out there, but whatever we vote on, it could be changed tomorrow.
100% right.
And there's so many things out there that people are proposing because of how it affects the taxpayers. The big thing for the school districts is it's hard to read, and we never really got an answer when we asked the question. Okay, we have to have additional money in order to run the district the way you're telling us the school district needs to be run. How do you want us to collect taxes? We've never been given an answer. So for us, it's purely a guess how we should enter into any of these because they could be taken away tomorrow. We don't know. And it's obvious by even that chart that you sent us. You saw in that chart that Berkshire, they're taking money away from, Cardinal, they're taking money away from, and Chardon, they're taking money away from. But Kenston and West Jaga, they're not taking money away from. And there's no explanation on why that is. There's no chart, there's no graph, there's no way for us to figure that out. So as I say this to my fellow board members and the public that's out there, we really don't have a clear-cut answer on anything from the state because they're not telling us. So we have to do the best we can with the information we have.
And the state is also expecting the local communities to do more funding of our own schools. And this year, I think it's 63% the local communities are required to pay, basically how it's all figured out mathematically, which I'm not a mathematician. And next year, they're looking at, and things can change, as we all are saying, it was going to be 71%. So, but that could change.
But we get information pretty much weekly for everybody's
Every day.
knowledge. We get weekly information from the Ohio School Boards Association that we belong to. And if you read all the legislation, it wants to put more burden on the taxpayers of each district. The state does not plan on increasing what they give to a district. I'll give you a quick number. And Beth, you please correct me if I'm wrong. We have approximately 250 special needs students. John, is that correct?
A little bit less than that, but close.
Pardon me?
A little bit less than 250, but you're pretty close.
Okay. By us telling the state that we have those students, the state gives us an additional $500,000. Beth, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Quick math tells you that's $2,000 per student. When my son went to school here, and that was some years back because he's 34 years old, he had a full-time aide from the time he was 7 years old till he was 14. So basically 7 years. Back then, if you looked at that person's salary and benefits, they were making approximately $35,000 a year. So when you look at a district with 200 to 250 special needs children, and the amount of help that we're getting to educate them is about $2,000 each, you can understand why. And I want people to understand why. This isn't easy, us sitting up here and looking at people's tax dollars. We have to figure a way to pay the bills because of those numbers that I just gave you. Those are real numbers. That's not something that I'm making up. So it's very difficult. And it doesn't appear that the state is planning on helping any more. They want to take more away. So they want to put it on the taxpayers' back of each district. And that's what they're doing.
And the other thing too, to remember too, is, so the property, the taxes that it says school, that's us. But the money also that we send down to the state in our taxes is going into the same line item for education that private schools, non-chartered schools, chartered schools are getting those voucher funds. So that means our tax dollars are also helping those students go to school. And this year, again, it was $1 billion that was taking out of that line item. So when you look at the 605 public schools in the state of Ohio and you took $1 billion out of that line item, that pool of money that we are getting, servicing 90% of the population in Ohio, is a big chunk. So.
Okay, we can talk to you and bore you the rest of the night, but we need to get down to business too.
Can I
So-
just ask one more question?
Sure.
Beth, if we do go with the earned income tax levy in November, how would we go about putting all of those stipulations or promises, making that how would that be on the actual ballot, or is that in the motion we make tonight? Because I want to make sure that even though we all know we're going to keep our word up here, I want to make it very crystal clear for.
So we would ask our attorney to draw up a resolution that would spell out what your intentions were,
Okay.
in addition to whatever levy you put on.
And it wouldn't necessarily be on the ballot language, but
No,
it would be another vote that we would do after voting. We're voting for this.
Right.
Hopefully tonight we're voting for this. But then we need that language. So it could be the next meeting, hopefully, or the meeting after that. We are very clear that our intentions are to make sure we're as close as we could be and not take more than we need. That's the push.
And even more clear than that, like assigning,
A time and.
dollar figures even, and, the
Collection,
assurance.
dollar
Yeah.
collection
Right.
figures,
Right.
right.
Right. Making it very specific. Yeah.
Would there be any way to put it on the ballot? Because there's going to be many people, we're going to try hard to get information out there, but they're going to go to the booth and see, wait, they're asking for an income. Didn't they just shift my millage too? So is there a way to get it on the ballot I don't know how it would be worded or what, but.
That's our attorney's question, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to,
So this would just be a motion, but what the motion is will not be what will be on the ballot. It'll be clear and stated and all that other
Yes.
kind of.
We have to
Various.
keep, if we're having something by November on the ballot, we have to have it in place with the Board of Elections by the beginning of August, 90 days prior to. So we're trying to work towards that. Plus, we have to start getting out there with the people, explaining to them what we're trying to do. So the sooner, the better, yes.
Okay.
So are we putting the cart before the horse by not having the language figured out before?
Yeah, I wonder
Before
if we should wait till the
approving.
next meeting. Yep.
I really don't want to push it another month, but
We do
I
have
also
time.
don't want to do something that we're unclear on.
So you want to get the verbiage from the lawyers, the attorneys first, and then have that all spelled out clearly before we actually.
Do we have to let them know which one we're choosing though, Beth?
That is bad.
So if you choose the PI, well, for either one, if you want it within the ballot language, I'll have to ask them about that. So if I ask to have, really for any of these, can you put it on the ballot that a shift back would happen? Is that essentially what you want?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's more that you want it on the ballot, not just a separate resolution. Okay.
Correct.
Both, yeah.
So maybe what we can do tonight is we could give Beth permission to move forward to get that kind of stuff for whatever levy we want to do.
Yeah, and I mean, Beth, if it makes sense to collect the earned income at 0.5%, I don't want to not do that. It's just, I
Right.
do not want to collect more than we said we would. That's the only thing that I want to know.
Mhm.
I want to be able to give back. If we collect this much, fine. But if it was not intended for us to collect that amount, then we're able to refund it.
So what do we need to do? Well, Beth, do you need a motion or John
There-
to move forward, or we just end it like this and then, I mean, she knows.
I think I hear what you're asking me to
Okay.
do, so I think if we just.
Yeah, there's no motion, so
yes,
you,
yes,
you
so
can
yes.
authorize Beth to bring language back at the next meeting that you would then vote on. But I think right now, there's no motion here, so
Okay, we can just
we don't
want to do anything.
make a motion or a first or a second. We just move on to new business.
We all good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Be safe, and sorry. Yeah.
Then we've beat the old business. Numbers, new business.
So I do have one quick thing in new business. I did attend a Burton Planning Commission meeting on Friday. Our request to change zoning at the property on 87 that we are now calling the Workforce Development Campus. And our zoning change was approved by the Planning Commission. So it'll now go in front of the Village Council. It has to be zoned, it was zoned M2 Industrial. It needed to be changed to H2 Highway Business in order for Preston to be able to do business on the site. But then that also puts it into alignment with the other contiguous properties, because those other three Preston properties are all H2 Highway Business. So that went through with, there were very few people there, so with relatively little fanfare.
It's always good.
Good.
Any other new business?
I don't know if it belongs in new business, but I think a few of us up here, at least who I've talked to, are going to make a concerted effort to make sure that information gets out to the community about school funding, because it is very complex. And a lot of these things that we've been talking about for the last couple months could turn into Band-Aids if the things at the state aren't addressed and fixed. So in an effort to start that process, I did put a flyer out on the music stand outside, as well as some in here that kind of explains some things that you can do as a community member, staff member, board member, whoever you are, to start a conversation with our legislation. Right now, the House Finance Committee is in session for this coming year, and it's a very critical time for them to make decisions. So it's a perfect time for you to take a couple minutes, if you can find the time to do it, to send an email, write a note, give a call to our representatives and tell them how you feel about our state of funding. There's some suggestions and things, and you can reach out to any of us if you have questions about it, but at least I can say personally, I'm going to make an effort to make sure something like this is done every board meeting to make sure that some information starts or continues to flow out to the taxpaying community.
Considering there's a new House bill put out just about every week, you
other
should have
day.
plenty of information.
Exactly right. Yep.
To give to the folks, because it seems every week when we get our updates, there's a new bill out there. None of them have been to our liking, to say the least.
So I'll also put this on social media, and I'll have it on places where you can find if you're interested.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Any other new business? Okay, next board meeting, April 14th, here in the auditorium, 6 PM. Beth or John, any need for executive session?
Nope, not from my
I have none.
perspective.
Okay. I need a first and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Brian,
I'll second.
Dan, any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman,
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes,
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
1 hour exactly.
Perfect. Sounds
Just one hour.
Wow. Thank you for coming, folks.